You stand at the edge of a road that goes nowhere in particular. The wind moves across black sand. It carries salt. It carries cold. It carries the smell of something older than memory. This is Iceland, the land of fire beneath ice, the land where the earth breathes steam and the rocks refuse to stay still. But you are not here for volcanoes. You are here for the ones who live in the cracks, the hidden folk, the Huldufólk, the people who occupy the spaces you cannot see. Perhaps they exist. Perhaps they do not. Tonight you will walk through their territory. You will listen. You will watch the stones. And maybe, just maybe, you will understand why an entire nation builds roads around boulders. The airport was small, you remember this. The fluorescent lights, the tired faces of travellers. The woman at the rental desk who asked if you wanted insurance for elf damage. You thought she was joking. She was not joking. "The rocks," she said, tapping her pen against the form. "Do not move the rocks." You nodded. You signed the paper. You took the keys. Outside, the air tasted like the end of the world. Clean, empty, impossibly fresh. Your car was blue, or maybe grey. The colour seemed to shift in the strange Icelandic light. You drove north. The road was narrow, 2 lanes that pretended to be confident. On either side, the landscape stretched flat and volcanic. Moss covered the lava fields in a carpet of green so bright it hurt. No trees. Trees do not grow well here. The wind will not allow it. You passed a boulder on the side of the road. It was the size of a delivery truck, smooth, dark. Sitting in the middle of what should have been a straight path. The road curved around it. Not over it, not through it, around it. You slowed down. You looked at the rock. It looked back. No, rocks do not look. That is silly. But you felt something, a presence, a weight in the air that was not quite wind and not quite silence. You drove on. The town was called Akureyri, or maybe it was not. The names blend together after a while. Consonants and vowels stacked like stones. You checked into a guest house. The owner was a man with a beard that reached his chest. He smelled like wool and coffee. "First time in Iceland?" he asked. "Yes," you said. "You will see things," he said, "or you will not. It depends on the things." He handed you a key attached to a piece of driftwood. Your room was on the 2nd floor. The bed was firm. The window looked out onto a garden of volcanic rock. In the centre stood a cairn, a stack of stones balanced with impossible precision. You stared at it. You wondered who built it. You wondered if it was built at all. That night, you read. The book was thin. A pamphlet, really. It sat on the nightstand next to a lamp that flickered when the wind blew. The title, A Visitor's Guide to the Hidden Folk. You opened it. The first page was simple. The Huldufólk are not ghosts, it said. They are not spirits. They are not metaphors. They are neighbours. They live in the rocks. They live in the hills. They live in the places you do not look. You turned the page. Do not disturb their homes. Do not move their stones. Do not mock them, even in jest. They are proud. They are old. They do not forgive. The lamp flickered again. You closed the book. You lay down. The wind outside sounded like breathing. You slept. In the morning the cairn was gone. You looked out the window. The garden was the same. The stones were the same. But the cairn, that careful stack of balanced rock, had vanished. You went downstairs. The bearded man was making coffee. The cairn, you said. It was there last night. He looked at you. His eyes were very blue. Yes, he said. It is gone now, you said. Yes, he said. He poured you coffee. He did not explain. You drank in silence. You decided to explore. The road out of town was empty. The sky was white. Not cloudy, just white, as if the colour had been wrung out of it. You drove slowly. You passed farms. You passed sheep. You passed more boulders that sat in strange places. One boulder blocked half a driveway. The driveway curved around it. The house beside it was painted red. Smoke rose from the chimney. You stopped the car. You got out. The air was cold. The wind pushed against you. You walked toward the house. A woman appeared in the doorway. She was old. Her hair was white and braided. She wore a sweater that looked hand-knit. "Can I help you?" she asked. Her English was perfect. "The rock," you said, pointing. "Why is it in your driveway?" She looked at the boulder. She looked at you. "That is not my rock," she said. But it is in your driveway, you said. No, she said. My driveway is around the rock. The rock was here first. You could move it, you said. She smiled. It was not a warm smile. I could, she said, but I will not. She went back inside. The door closed. You stood in the cold. The rock sat in the driveway. You got back in your car. You drove on. The next town was smaller, a cluster of houses, a church with a red roof, a harbour where boats bobbed in water the colour of iron. You parked near the church. You walked. The streets were empty. The houses were quiet. Smoke rose from chimneys. Somewhere a dog barked. You found a cafe. It was small. 3 tables, a counter. A woman behind the counter reading a book. You ordered coffee. She poured it without looking up. Tourist? She asked. Yes, you said. Here for the hidden folk? Maybe, you said. She closed her book. She looked at you. Her eyes were grey. Everyone comes for them, she said. No one finds them. Why not, you asked. Because they do not want to be found, she said, or because they do not exist. Take your pick. She went back to her book. You drank your coffee. It was strong. It tasted like peat. Outside, the wind picked up. The harbour water rippled. The boats rocked. You left money on the counter. You walked back into the cold. You drove inland. The landscape changed. The flat lava fields gave way to hills. The hills gave way to mountains. The mountains were black and white. Snow on the peaks. Shadow in the valleys. You passed a sign. It was hand-painted. The letters were crooked. Elf Crossing, it said. You slowed down. You looked left. You looked right. The road was empty. You continued. The sun never quite set. This time of year, the light just faded. It moved from white to grey to a kind of luminous dusk that lasted for hours. You found a place to stop, a pull-off beside a stream. The water was clear. You could see the stones at the bottom. You turned off the engine. You sat. The silence was enormous. No cars, no planes, no voices, just wind, just water. Just the sound of the earth doing nothing at all. You got out of the car. You walked to the stream. You knelt. The water was cold enough to hurt. You dipped your fingers in. You tasted it. It tasted like stone. Behind you something moved. You turned. Nothing. Just rocks. Just moss. Just the endless volcanic fields stretching toward the horizon. But you felt it. That weight in the air. That presence. Hello? You said. Your voice was small. The wind did not answer. You stood. You walked back to the car. You drove on. The guest house that night was different. It was not in a town. It was alone. A single building on a hill, painted yellow, surrounded by stones. The owner was a young woman. She had red hair and freckles. She spoke in a musical accent. Welcome, she said. You are my only guest tonight. Thank you, you said. She showed you to your room. It was small, clean. The window looked out onto a field of lava. The bathroom is down the hall, she said. Breakfast is at 8. Do not go outside after dark. You paused. Why not? You asked. She smiled. Because it is cold, she said. She left. You unpacked. You lay on the bed. You stared at the ceiling. The light outside faded from grey to darker grey. You did not go outside, but you dreamed. In the dream, you were walking. The landscape was the same. Black sand, green moss, stones everywhere. But the stones were different. They hummed. Not a sound, a feeling, a vibration that came from deep below. You walked toward one, a large boulder, smooth and round, sitting in the middle of nothing. You reached out. You touched it. The stone was warm. It opened, not like a door, like a flower. The surface of the stone peeled back. Inside was light, soft, golden. It spilled out onto the ground. You stepped closer. Inside the stone was a room, small, cosy. A fire burned in a hearth. A chair sat beside it. A table held a cup of something steaming. No one was there, but you felt welcome. You stepped inside. The stone closed behind you. You woke. The room was dark. The window showed nothing but black. You sat up. Your heart was beating fast. It was just a dream. Just a dream. You lay back down. You did not sleep again. In the morning, the owner served you eggs and bread. Did you sleep well? She asked. Yes, you lied. She nodded. She poured you coffee. There is a place you should visit, she said, if you are interested. What kind of place? You asked. A rock, she said. A famous one. People leave offerings. Offerings? Small things. Coins. Flowers. Notes. To show respect. To the hidden folk? She shrugged. To something, she said. She gave you directions. You finished your breakfast. You thanked her. You drove on. The rock was not hard to find. It sat beside the road. Larger than the others. Taller than a person. Its surface was rough, covered in lichen. At its base were the offerings. Coins, mostly. Some flowers, wilted. A few folded pieces of paper. You parked. You got out. The wind was strong here. It pushed against you. You approached the rock. You knelt. You read one of the notes. The ink was smudged. The handwriting was shaky. Please forgive me, it said. I did not know. You folded it back. You placed it where you found it. You stood. You looked at the rock. I do not know either, you said. The wind did not answer. You got back in your car. You drove on. The days blurred. You drove north. You drove east. You followed roads that twisted through valleys and climbed over passes. You stopped in towns. You talked to people. You asked about the hidden folk. Some laughed. Some did not. One man told you a story. He was a fisherman. His hands were rough. His face was weathered. My grandfather, he said, he built a barn. Right there. He pointed to an empty field. Took him 3 months. Good barn. Strong. What happened? You asked. It burned, he said. One night. No reason. No lightning. No accident. Just burned. And, you said, he built it again. Same spot. Burned again. Why? The fisherman looked at you. There was a rock, he said, in the foundation. He had moved it. After the second fire, he put it back. And? Third barn did not burn. He went back to his work. You stood there. You thought about rocks. You drove to the coast. The ocean here was black, not blue, not grey, black. The waves moved slow and heavy. You stood on a cliff. The wind screamed. Below the water crashed against stones. You closed your eyes. You listened. The sound was like breathing. In and out, in and out. You opened your eyes. On the rocks below, you saw something. A shape. Too far to see clearly. Too small to be a person. Too still to be a bird. You stared. The shape moved. It turned. It looked up. For a moment, you locked eyes. Or you thought you did. Then it was gone. Just rocks. Just water. Just wind. You stepped back from the edge. You walked to your car. Your hands were shaking. That night, you stayed in a town called Vic. The town was small. Black sand beach. Sharp cliffs. A church on a hill. You checked into a hostel. The room was shared. You were alone. You lay on the bed. You stared at the ceiling. You thought about what you had seen. Or not seen. Was it real? Was it a trick of the light? Was it just a rock? You did not know. You turned off the light. You closed your eyes. The wind outside sounded like voices. In the morning, you decided to visit the beach. The sand was black. Volcanic. It stretched for miles. The waves came in slow and cold. You walked along the shore. Your boots left prints. The wind erased them. Ahead, you saw something. A figure. Standing at the water's edge. Not moving. You walked closer. It was a cairn. Stones stacked high. Balanced perfectly. Impossible in the wind. You stopped. You stared. You reached out. You touched the top stone. It was warm. The cairn collapsed. Stones tumbled onto the sand. The sound was soft. You stepped back. You looked around. No one. Nothing. Just the beach. Just the wind. You walked away. You drove for hours. The roads grew narrower. The landscape grew stranger. Hills of moss. Fields of stone. Rivers that carved through basalt like veins. You passed a farm. The house was small, painted blue. Beside it stood a barn, and beside the barn stood a rock. It was huge, the size of a car, sitting in the yard like it had always been there. You stopped. You got out. A man was standing in the doorway of the house. He watched you. "Excuse me," you called. He walked over. He was young. His face was kind. "Yes," he said. "The rock," you said. "Why is it in your yard?" He looked at it. He looked at you. "That is their rock," he said. "Theirs?" "The hidden folk. They live there. You stared at him. You believe that? You asked. He shrugged. I do not know, he said. But my father believed it, and his father, so I leave it alone. Do you ever see them? You asked. He smiled. No, he said, but I hear them. What do they sound like? He thought for a moment. Like wind, he said, but kinder. He went back inside. You stood in the yard. You looked at the rock. It sat there, silent, still, just a rock. You got back in your car. You drove on. You began to see patterns. Roads that curved for no reason, driveways that bent, fields that left space around certain stones. Everywhere, the hidden folk, or the idea of them, the respect for them. You wondered what it meant, to live in a place where the unseen mattered, where the invisible had rights, where belief was written into the landscape itself. It was strange. It was beautiful. It was deeply, quietly mad. You kept driving. One evening, you found a library. It was in a town you cannot remember the name of. The building was small. The door was unlocked. Inside, a woman sat at a desk. She was reading. She did not look up. You wandered the aisles. The books were mostly in Icelandic, but you found one in English, the title The Hidden Folk, A History. You sat in a chair by the window, you opened the book. The first chapter was about origins. The Huldufólk are not native to Iceland, it said. They came from the old world, from the forests of Scandinavia, from the mountains of Scotland. They travelled with the settlers, they hid in the cargo, they whispered in the wind. You turned the page. When the settlers arrived, the hidden folk stayed. They built homes in the rocks, they carved halls in the hills, they lived beside the humans, not with them, beside them. You kept reading. They are not cruel. They are not kind. They are what they have always been. Neighbours, strangers, the ones who live in the spaces between. You closed the book. You looked out the window. The light was fading. The street was empty. You wondered if they were watching. You wondered if they cared. You drove into the highlands. The road was rough, gravel, washboard ruts. The car bounced. The landscape opened up. Here, there were no farms, no houses, just earth, just sky, just the long, empty stretch of volcanic desert. You stopped. You got out. The silence was absolute. No wind, no water, no birds, just you, just the ground, just the endless grey horizon. You walked. Your boots crunched on gravel. Each step was loud, too loud. You stopped. You turned. Behind you, the road stretched back. The car was a small blue dot. Ahead, the desert continued. And in the middle of the desert, you saw a house. It was small, wooden, painted red. It sat alone. No road leading to it, no path, just the house. You stared. It should not be there. You walked toward it. The distance did not change. You walked faster. The house stayed the same. Far. Unreachable. A mirage in a land that should not have mirages. You stopped. You turned around. You walked back to the car. You did not look back. That night you stayed in a hut. It was a mountain hut, built for hikers, empty now. The bunks were bare. The stove was cold. You lit a fire. You boiled water. You ate freeze-dried soup that tasted like salt and regret. You sat by the fire. Outside, the wind picked up. It howled. It rattled the windows. You listened. And inside the wind, you heard it. Singing. Not words, just melody, high and clear. Rising and falling, you stood. You went to the window. Outside, the world was dark. No moon, no stars, just black. The singing continued. You opened the door. The wind hit you. Cold, sharp. It stole your breath. The singing stopped. You stood in the doorway. You looked out. Nothing, no one. Just darkness. Just wind. You closed the door. You sat back down. You did not sleep. In the morning you left. You drove back down the mountain. The road was steep. The car slipped on gravel. You gripped the wheel. At the bottom, you stopped. You got out. You breathed. Your hands were shaking. You looked back up the mountain. The hut was gone. Swallowed by distance, by rock, by the strange light. You got back in the car. You drove on. You began to feel it. A presence. A weight. Not oppressive. Just there. Like someone standing just behind you. Just out of sight. You would turn. Nothing. You would glance in the mirror. Empty. But the feeling stayed. You stopped fighting it. You let it be. You visited a museum. It was small, one room dedicated to the hidden folk. The walls were covered in photographs, rocks, cairns, hills, each with a small plaque explaining the story. This rock is home to a family of 7. This hill must not be disturbed. This cairn marks a boundary. You read them all. At the end of the room was a guest book. You opened it. The entries went back years. I felt something. I saw a light. I believe. I do not believe, but I respect. You picked up the pen. You thought. You wrote, I am listening. You closed the book. You left. The days grew longer, or maybe shorter. Time felt strange here. Elastic. The light did not follow rules. You drove without direction. You followed roads that appeared and disappeared. You stopped where the land felt right. You climbed hills. You walked through lava fields. You stood beside waterfalls that roared with cold, ancient fury, and everywhere, the stones, watching, waiting. Silent. One afternoon, you found a valley. It was narrow, green. A river ran through it. On the hillside, you saw a cluster of rocks. They were arranged, not naturally. Someone had placed them, or something. You climbed the hill. The rocks formed a circle. Inside the circle, the grass was greener. The air was warmer. You stepped inside. You sat down. You closed your eyes. The wind moved through the valley. It sang in the grass. It whispered in the stones. You listened. And for a moment, just a moment, you felt it. Not a presence, not a voice, just a sense, a knowing. They were there. They had always been there. They would always be there. And they did not mind you. You opened your eyes. The valley was the same, the stones were the same, but you felt lighter. You stood. You climbed back down. You drove on. You returned to Reykjavik. The city felt loud. Too many people. Too many cars. Too much light. You checked into a hotel. You showered. You slept in a real bed. In the morning, you walked through the streets. You found a cafe. You ordered coffee. You sat by the window. Outside, the city moved. People walked. Buses passed. Life continued. You thought about the rocks, the roads, the singing in the wind. You thought about the hidden folk. Did you see them? Did you hear them? You did not know. But you felt them. That much was true. On your last day, you drove to the countryside one more time. You followed the coast. The ocean was calm. The sky was blue. You stopped at a pull-off. You got out. You walked to a boulder. It sat alone, covered in lichen, warm in the sun. You placed your hand on it. Thank you, you said. The stone did not answer, but that was okay. You got back in your car. You drove to the airport. You flew home. But sometimes late at night you think about them. The stones, the singing, the feeling of being watched. You wonder if they remember you. You wonder if they think of you. Probably not. But maybe, just maybe. The plane ride was long. You slept most of it. When you woke, the sun was setting somewhere over the Atlantic. You looked out the window. Below, the ocean stretched endless and dark. You thought about the hidden folk. You thought about belief. What does it mean to believe in something you cannot see? What does it mean to respect something that may not exist? You did not have answers, but you had questions, and that felt like enough. The plane landed. You collected your bags. You took a taxi home. Your apartment felt small, too warm, too familiar. You unpacked. You showered. You made tea. You sat by the window. You looked out at the street. Cars passed. People walked. Everything was normal, but you felt different. Not changed, not transformed, just different. Like a stone that had been moved and then put back. The same stone, the same place, but not quite. You finished your tea, you went to bed, and you dreamed of Iceland. In your dreams, the stones sang. They hummed with a frequency you could feel in your bones. You walked through the lava fields. You climbed the hills. You stood beside the cairns, and everywhere you went they were there. Not visible, not tangible, but there, watching, waiting, present. You woke in the middle of the night. Your room was dark, your sheets were twisted, you lay still, you listened. Outside, a car passed, a dog barked, the refrigerator hummed. Normal sounds, everyday sounds, but underneath them you heard something else. Or maybe you did not. Maybe it was just your imagination. Maybe it was just the memory of wind and stone and the vast empty spaces of Iceland. Or maybe it was them. You closed your eyes. You slept. The next day you went back to work. Your co-workers asked about your trip. You told them it was beautiful. You showed them pictures, waterfalls, mountains, black sand beaches. Did you see the northern lights? Someone asked. No, you said. Wrong time of year. Did you see any elves? Someone else joked. You paused. Maybe, you said. They laughed. You smiled, but you were not joking. That night you looked up everything you could find about the hidden folk. You read articles. You watched documentaries. You scrolled through forums where people shared their experiences. Some claimed to have seen them. Small figures in the corner of their vision, lights moving in the hills, voices singing in the wind. Others were skeptical. They explained it away as folklore, as superstition, as the product of long, dark winters and isolated communities. You read both sides. You did not choose one. You found a forum post that stuck with you. It was written by an Icelandic woman. Her English was imperfect but clear. My grandmother always said, she wrote, that it does not matter if the hidden folk are real. What matters is that we act as if they are. We show respect. We leave space. We remember that the world is not only ours. You read it 3 times. You closed your laptop. You sat in the dark. The weeks passed. You went to work. You came home. You lived your life. But something had shifted. You found yourself noticing things you'd not noticed before. The way the sidewalk curved around an old tree. The way the park had a patch of untouched ground in the corner. The way your neighbour refused to cut down the dead oak in his yard. It is home to something, he said when you asked. You did not press. You started taking walks, long walks, through the city, through the parks, along the river. You looked for spaces that felt different, places where the air changed, where the light shifted, where the noise of the city fell away. You found a few, a corner lot overgrown with weeds, a narrow alley that no one used, a bench beneath a bridge where the sound of traffic became a distant hum. You sat in these places. You closed your eyes. You listened. Sometimes you felt it, that presence, that weight. Sometimes you did not, but you kept looking. One Saturday you visited a botanical garden. It was early. The garden had just opened. You were one of the first people there. You walked slowly. You read the plaques. You admired the plants. In the back corner you found a rock garden, stones of all sizes arranged in patterns, some stacked, some scattered, some standing alone. You sat on a bench. You watched the stones. A woman sat down beside you. She was older, grey hair, kind face. Beautiful, is it not? She said. Yes, you said. I come here often, she said. It reminds me of home. Where is home? You asked. Iceland, she said. You turned to look at her. I just came back from there, you said. She smiled. Did you feel them? She asked. You did not ask what she meant. Yes, you said. She nodded. They are here too, she said. Not as strong, not as many, but they are here. She gestured to the stones. Wherever there are stones, she said, wherever there is respect, they find a way. She stood. She walked away. You sat for a long time. You looked at the stones. You wondered. That night you could not sleep. You lay in bed. You stared at the ceiling. You thought about the woman in the garden. You thought about the hidden folk. You thought about belief. You got up. You went to your window. You looked out. The street was empty. The sky was dark. A few stars were visible through the light pollution. You pressed your hand against the glass. Are you there? You whispered. The glass was cold. The street was silent. Nothing answered. But you felt something, a shift, a breath, a presence just out of reach. You smiled. You went back to bed. You slept. The months passed. Winter came. The days grew short. The nights grew long. You kept walking. You kept looking. You kept listening. You found more places. A cemetery with old stones covered in moss. A construction site where the workers had left a boulder untouched. A community garden with a corner no one planted. You asked about them. Quietly. Carefully. Most people did not know. Some did not care. But a few understood. That is for the spirits, one gardener said. Bad luck to move it, a construction worker said. My grandmother told me to leave it alone, a cemetery caretaker said. You collected these stories. You wrote them down. You kept them in a notebook beside your bed. One evening, you were walking through a park. The sun was setting. The air was cold. You saw a child crouched beside a tree. She was maybe 6 or 7. She was placing small stones in a circle. You stopped. "What are you making?" you asked. She looked up. Her eyes were very dark. "A house," she said. "For who?" "For the ones who live in the tree." You knelt beside her. "Have you seen them?" you asked. She shook her head. "No," she said, "but my mum says they are there, so I make them a house, so they feel welcome." She placed another stone. "Do you believe in them?" you asked. She thought about it. "I do not know," she said, "but it is nice to make houses, even if no one lives there." She finished the circle. She stood up. She ran off toward the playground. You stayed kneeling. You looked at the circle of stones. It was small, imperfect, made by a child's hands, but it was beautiful. You stood. You walked away. You did not disturb it. Winter deepened. The snow came. The city turned white. The parks became quiet. You kept walking. You kept looking. You found that the cold made it easier. The silence was deeper. The presence was stronger. One night during a snowstorm, you walked to the river. The water was dark. Chunks of ice floated past. The snow fell thick and soft. You stood on the bridge. You looked down, and in the water you saw something, a light, small, blue, moving beneath the ice. You stared. The light moved slowly. It circled. It glowed. Then it was gone. You stood there for a long time. The snow covered your hair, your shoulders, your hands. You did not move. You did not want to break the moment. Finally you turned. You walked home. Your apartment was warm. You made tea. You sat by the window. You thought about the light. Was it real? Was it a reflection? Was it just your imagination? You did not know, but it did not matter. You had seen it. You had felt it, and that was enough. Spring came. The snow melted. The trees budded. The city came back to life. You continued your walks. You continued your search. You found that the presence was quieter now, softer, but still there. You visited the botanical garden again. The rock garden was the same. The stones had not moved. You sat on the bench. The woman was not there. You did not see her again. But you felt her words. They stayed with you. Wherever there are stones, wherever there is respect, they find a way. You looked at the stones. You closed your eyes. You listened. The wind moved through the trees. Birds sang. Water trickled from a fountain. And underneath it all, you felt it. That hum, that vibration, that sense of something just beyond. You opened your eyes. You smiled. You stood up. You walked home. That night you had a dream. You were back in Iceland, standing in the lava fields. The moss was bright green. The sky was white. In front of you stood a stone, large, smooth, warm. It opened, not like before, not like a flower. This time it opened like a door. Inside you saw a room, but not the same room from before. This room was different, larger, more real. There were shelves, there were books, there were windows that looked out onto impossible landscapes, and sitting in a chair by the fire was a figure, small, dressed in old-fashioned clothing, face hidden in shadow. You stepped inside. The stone door closed. The figure looked up. "You came back," it said. The voice was neither male nor female, neither old nor young. It simply was. "I did," you said. "Why?" "I do not know," you said. The figure nodded. "That is a good answer," it said. It gestured to a chair. "Sit," it said. You sat. The fire crackled. The room was warm. "You've been looking for us," the figure said. "Yes," you said. "Have you found us?" You thought about it. "I do not know," you said. "Maybe." The figure smiled. You could not see its face, but you felt the smile. "That is also a good answer," it said. It stood. It walked to the window. It looked out. "We are not what you think," it said. "We are not creatures. We are not spirits. We are not magic." "Then what are you?" you asked. The figure turned. "We are the spaces," it said. "The in-between, the unnoticed, the forgotten. We are what happens when you stop looking, when you stop trying, when you simply are." You didn't understand, but you listened. "You came to Iceland looking for us," the figure said, "but you brought us home with you, because you learned to see the spaces, to notice the in-between, to respect the forgotten." It walked back to the fire. "We are not found," it said. We're remembered. You sat in silence. The fire crackled. What should I do now? You asked. The figure sat down. What you have been doing, it said. Walk, look, listen. Respect the spaces. Remember the in-between. That is all we ask. Will I see you again? You asked. The figure tilted its head. You see us all the time, it said. You just do not always recognize us. The fire began to fade. The room grew darker. It is time to go, the figure said. You stood. The stone door opened. You stepped out. The door closed. You were standing in the lava field. The moss was bright green. The sky was white. You woke. Your room was dark. Your sheets were warm. You lay still. You thought about the dream. You thought about the figure. You thought about the words. We are not found. We are remembered. You closed your eyes. You slept. The next day you woke early. You made coffee. You sat by the window. You watched the sun rise. You watched the street come to life. You thought about what to do. You thought about where to go. And then you realized you were already there. The in-between, the unnoticed, the forgotten. It was here. It had always been here. You just had to remember to see it. You finished your coffee. You got dressed. You went for a walk. You walked through your neighborhood. You noticed things you had not noticed before. The crack in the sidewalk where weeds grew. The tree with the twisted trunk. The house with the overgrown yard. The spaces. The in-between. You walked to the park. You sat on a bench. You closed your eyes. You listened. The wind. The birds. The distant traffic. And underneath it all, that hum. That vibration. That presence. You opened your eyes. You smiled. You understood. The hidden folk were not in Iceland. They were everywhere. They were in the spaces you did not look, the places you did not notice, the moments you did not pay attention to. They were in the pause between breaths, the silence between words, the stillness between movements. They were in the world, all around, all the time. You just had to remember to see them. You stood up. You walked home. That night, you sat at your desk. You opened your notebook. You read through your notes, all the stories, all the places, all the moments. You decided to write it down, all of it, not as proof, not as evidence, but as memory, as a way to remember the spaces, the in-between, the forgotten. You wrote for hours. You wrote about Iceland. You wrote about the stones. You wrote about the roads that curved around boulders. You wrote about the woman in the botanical garden. You wrote about the child making houses for the ones in the tree. You wrote about the light beneath the ice. You wrote about the dream. You wrote about the figure. You wrote about the words. We are not found. We are remembered. You wrote until your hand cramped, until your eyes burned, until you had nothing left to say. Then you closed the notebook. You went to bed. You slept. The years passed. You kept walking. You kept looking. You kept listening. You kept noticing the spaces, the in-between, the forgotten. You found more places, more stories, more moments. You met other people who understood, who saw what you saw, who felt what you felt. You shared your stories. They shared theirs. And slowly, quietly, you built a community, a group of people who remembered, who respected, who paid attention. You organized walks. You mapped the spaces. You created guides. You taught others to see, to notice, to remember. And the city changed. Not dramatically, not obviously, but it changed. People started to notice, started to care, started to respect. Construction projects left stones untouched. Parks left corners wild. Roads curved around trees. The spaces remained. The in-between stayed. The forgotten was remembered. And in those spaces, in that in-between, the hidden folk thrived. Or maybe they did not. Maybe it was all in your head. Maybe it was just a story. Maybe it was just a way to make sense of the world. But it did not matter, because the spaces were protected. The in-between was honoured. The forgotten was valued. And that was enough. One day, many years later, you returned to Iceland. You rented a car. You drove north. You followed the same roads. The landscape was the same. Black sand, green moss, endless sky. The boulders were still there. The road still curved around them. You stopped at the same pull-off. You walked to the same stream. You knelt at the same water. You dipped your fingers in. You tasted it. It still tasted like stone. You stood. You looked around. The presence was there. that weight in the air. But it felt different now, familiar, like an old friend, like coming home. You smiled. "I remember," you said. The wind did not answer, but that was okay. You got back in your car, you drove on, you visited the guest house. The bearded man was gone, replaced by a younger woman. But the garden was the same, the stones were the same, and in the centre there was a cairn. Balanced perfectly. Impossible. Beautiful. You stared at it. You wondered if it was the same one, if it had been rebuilt, if it had ever really been gone. You did not ask. You checked in. You went to your room. That night you sat by the window. You looked out at the garden. At the cairn, at the stones. You thought about the years, the walks, the spaces, the in-between. You thought about the hidden folk. And you realised something. It did not matter if they were real. What mattered was the respect, the attention, the care. What mattered was remembering that the world was bigger than you, that there were things you could not see, could not understand, could not control. What mattered was leaving space for the unseen, for the unknown, for the forgotten. That was the lesson. That was the gift. Not proof, not evidence, not certainty, just space, just respect, just memory. You closed your eyes. You slept. In the morning you woke early. You went downstairs. The owner was making coffee. "Did you sleep well?" she asked. "Yes," you said. She smiled. "The cairn," she said. "Did you see it?" "Yes," you said. "It changes," she said. "Every night, different shape, different height, but always there." "Who builds it?" you asked. She shrugged. "Who knows?" she said. "Maybe the wind, maybe the stones themselves, maybe the ones who live here." She poured you coffee. "Does it matter?" she asked. You thought about it. "No," you said. "It does not." She nodded. "Good answer," she said. You drank your coffee. You thanked her. You left. You spent the day driving. You visited the places you remembered. The farms, the harbours, the cliffs. Everything was the same. Everything was different. You had changed. The world had changed. But the stones remained. That night you stayed in a different guest house, in a different town, with a different view. But the feeling was the same. That presence. That weight. That sense of being watched. You lay in bed. You stared at the ceiling. You thought about going home. About your life. About your community. You thought about the people you had taught. The spaces you had protected. The memories you had preserved. You felt proud. You felt grateful. You felt at peace. You closed your eyes. You slept. And you dreamed. In the dream, you were standing in the lava field. The moss was bright green. The sky was white. All around you the stones glowed. Soft. Golden. Warm. And from each stone a figure emerged. Small. Dressed in old-fashioned clothing. Faces hidden in shadow. They stood in a circle around you. You were not afraid. "Thank you," one said. "For remembering," another said. "For respecting," a third said. "For caring," a fourth said. They spoke in turn, each voice different. Each voice the same. "You have done well," they said together. "You have kept the spaces. You have honoured the in-between. You have valued the forgotten." You stood in the centre. You looked at them. "Will I see you again?" you asked. They smiled. You could not see their faces, but you felt the smiles. "You see us all the time," they said. "You always have." The stones began to close. The figures began to fade. "Wait," you said. They paused. "What should I do now?" you asked. They looked at you, all of them, together. "Keep walking," they said. "Keep looking, keep listening, keep remembering." "That is all?" you asked. "That is everything," they said. The stones closed. The figures vanished. You were alone in the lava field. The moss was bright green. The sky was white. You woke. Your room was dark. Your sheets were warm. You lay still. You thought about the dream. You thought about the words. Keep walking, keep looking, keep listening, keep remembering. You smiled. You closed your eyes. You slept. In the morning you packed your bags. You checked out. You drove to the airport. You returned the car. The woman at the desk smiled. "Any damage?" she asked. "No," you said. "Did you move any rocks?" "No," you said. She nodded. "Good," she said. "Safe travels." You boarded the plane. You found your seat. You buckled in. As the plane took off, you looked out the window. Below, Iceland stretched out, black and green and white, stone and moss and sky. You watched until it disappeared, until there was nothing but ocean, nothing but clouds. You closed your eyes, you thought about home, about your community, about the spaces you had protected. You thought about the hidden folk, and you realized they were not just in Iceland, they were not just in your city, they were everywhere, anywhere, wherever people remembered, wherever people respected, wherever people cared. They were in the world, all around, all the time. You just had to look. The plane landed, you collected your bags, you took a taxi home. Your apartment was the same, warm, familiar, safe. You unpacked, you showered, you made tea, you sat by the window, you looked out at the street. Cars passed, people walked, life continued, but you saw the spaces, the in-between, the forgotten, and you smiled. Because you knew they were there, you knew they were watching, you knew they were with you, not as creatures, not as spirits, not as magic, but as memory, as respect, as care. As the spaces you chose to protect, the in-between you chose to honor, the forgotten you chose to value. That was the truth, that was the gift, that was the lesson. You finished your tea, you stood up, you walked to your desk, you opened your notebook, you picked up your pen, and you wrote. You wrote about Iceland, you wrote about the stones, you wrote about the hidden folk, you wrote about belief, you wrote about respect, you wrote about memory, you wrote about the spaces, the in-between, the forgotten. You wrote for hours, you wrote until your hand cramped, until your eyes burned, until you had said everything you needed to say. Then you closed the notebook, you put down the pen, you went to bed, and as you lay there, in the dark, in the quiet, you felt it, that presence, that weight, that sense of being watched. You smiled. "Good night," you whispered. The darkness did not answer, but that was okay, because you knew. You knew they were there. You knew they were listening. You knew they understood. And that was enough. You closed your eyes. You drifted. You slept. And in your sleep you dreamed of stones, of moss, of wind. You dreamed of Iceland, of lava fields, of endless sky. You dreamed of the hidden folk, of their homes in the rocks, of their halls in the hills. You dreamed of the spaces, the in-between, the forgotten. And in your dreams you walked, you looked, you listened, you remembered. And they were there. They were always there. In the spaces you did not look. In the places you did not notice. In the moments you did not pay attention to. They were there, waiting, watching, present, not to be found, but to be remembered, not to be proven, but to be respected, not to be understood, but to be honored. And as you dreamed, as you drifted, as you slept, you understood. This was the lesson. This was the gift. This was the truth. The world is bigger than you, stranger than you, more mysterious than you can imagine. There are things you cannot see, things you cannot know, things you cannot control, and that is okay. That is good. That is as it should be. Because in those spaces, in that mystery, in that unknown, there is magic. Not the magic of spells and potions, not the magic of fantasy and fiction, but the magic of respect, of attention, of care, the magic of noticing, of valuing, of remembering, the magic of leaving space for the unseen, for the forgotten, for the hidden. That is the magic. That is the lesson. That is the gift, and you carry it with you every day, every moment, every breath. You carry it in your walks, in your noticing, in your remembering. You carry it in the spaces you protect, in the in-between you honor, in the forgotten you value. You carry it with you, always, forever, until the end and beyond. Now you lie in your bed. The room is dark. The air is still. You close your eyes. You think of Iceland, the black sand, the green moss, the endless sky. You think of the rocks, and you sleep. The hidden folk are not a myth. They are not a legend. They are a way of seeing, a way of being, a way of remembering. They live in the spaces you do not look. They breathe in the silence you do not hear. They are there, or they are not. It does not matter. What matters is this: the world is strange. The world is old. The world is full of things you will never understand, and that is okay. That is good. That is enough. You drift. Your breathing slows. Your thoughts soften. Outside, the wind moves through the trees. Or maybe it is not wind. Maybe it is them, the hidden folk, singing you to sleep. Sleep now. Let the stones hold you. Let the wind carry you. Let the hidden world unfold around you. You're safe. You're home. You're asleep. The darkness is soft. The silence is deep. You float in the space between waking and sleeping, between knowing and not knowing, between seeing and not seeing. This is the in-between. This is the space. This is where they live. Not in Iceland, not in your city, but here, in this moment, in this breath, in this quiet. They are here. You feel them, not as presences, not as beings, but as memory, as respect, as care, as the knowledge that the world is bigger than you, that there is mystery, that there is magic, not the magic of fairy tales, but the magic of paying attention, of noticing, of caring, the magic of leaving space for the unseen, for the unknown, for the forgotten. That is the magic, that is the gift, that is the truth, and you carry it with you, into sleep, into dreams, into the dark. You carry it with you, always. The stones sing, the wind whispers, the darkness holds you. You sleep, deep, peaceful, safe, and in your sleep the hidden folk watch over you. Not to protect, not to guide, but simply to be, to exist in the spaces, to breathe in the silence, to live in the forgotten. They are there. They have always been there. They will always be there, in Iceland, in your city, in your dreams. In the spaces you do not look, in the moments you do not notice, in the silence you do not hear. They are there, waiting, watching, present, not to be found, but to be remembered. And you remember, in your sleep, in your dreams, in your quiet moments, you remember the stones, the moss, the wind, the lava fields, the cairns, the roads that curve around boulders, the respect, the attention, the care. You remember, and in remembering, you honour them, you protect them, you keep them alive, not as myth, not as legend, but as truth, as a way of seeing, a way of being, a way of living. You remember. And that is enough. That is everything. Sleep now. Let the memory hold you. Let the respect comfort you. Let the care surround you. You are safe. You are held. You are home. Sleep. The night is long. The darkness is gentle. You drift deeper, farther, softer, into the space where dreams live, where memories rest, where the hidden folk sing. You drift. And as you drift, you let go of worry, of doubt, of fear. You let go of the need to understand, the need to know, the need to see. You let go. And in letting go, you find peace, not the peace of answers, but the peace of questions, not the peace of certainty, but the peace of mystery, not the peace of control, but the peace of surrender. You let go, you drift, you sleep, and in your sleep you are held by the darkness, by the silence, by the hidden folk. They do not speak, they do not touch, they do not reveal themselves, but they are there, in the spaces, in the in-between, in the forgotten. They are there, and that is enough. You sleep, deep, peaceful, safe. The world continues around you. The city breathes, the earth turns, but you are apart from it, separate, in your own space. The space of sleep, the space of dreams, the space of the hidden folk. You are there, safe, held, home. And as you sleep, the stones sing, not with sound, but with presence. They sing of age, of patience, of endurance. They sing of the earth, of time, of stillness. They sing of the hidden folk, of respect, of memory. They sing, and you hear them, not with your ears, but with your heart. You hear them, and you are comforted. You sleep. The night deepens, the darkness grows, but you're not afraid, because you know, you remember, you understand. The darkness is not empty, it is full, full of spaces, full of in-between, full of forgotten, full of hidden folk, full of memory, full of respect. It is full, and you are part of it. You sleep in the fullness, you rest in the presence, you drift in the care, you are held, you are safe, you are home. Sleep now. Let the night hold you, let the darkness comfort you, let the hidden folk watch over you. Sleep. The world is strange, the world is old, the world is full of mystery, and you are part of it. You are part of the stones, part of the moss, part of the wind. You are part of the spaces, part of the in-between, part of the forgotten. You are part of the hidden folk, not as one of them, but as one who remembers, who respects, who cares. You are part of it. And in being part of it, you are whole. Sleep now. Let the wholeness fill you. Let the peace surround you. Let the magic hold you. Sleep. Deep. Peaceful. Safe. The night is long, but you are not alone. The hidden folk are with you, in the spaces, in the silence, in the dark. They are with you, always, forever, until the end and beyond. Sleep now. Let them sing you deeper. Let them carry you further. Let them hold you closer. Sleep. You are safe. You are home. You are asleep. And in your sleep the world is perfect, not because it is without mystery, but because it is full of it, not because it is without questions, but because it embraces them, not because it is without the unknown, but because it honors it. The world is perfect, and you are part of it. Sleep now. Let the perfection wash over you. Let the mystery comfort you. Let the unknown hold you. Sleep. Deep. Peaceful. Safe. The stones sing. The wind whispers. The darkness holds. You sleep, and in your sleep you dream of Iceland, of lava fields, of moss, of sky, of roads that curve, of stones that watch, of spaces that matter. You dream, and in your dreams you walk, through the fields, over the hills, beside the streams, you walk, and everywhere you go, they are there, the hidden folk, not visible, not tangible, but present, in the stones, in the moss, in the wind. They are there, and you're not afraid, because you remember, you respect, you care, you walk, and they walk with you, not beside you, not behind you, but with you, in the spaces, in the in-between, in the forgotten. They walk with you, and you are not alone. You walk, through your dreams, through your memories, through your sleep. You walk, and as you walk, you understand. This is the gift. This is the lesson. This is the truth. You're never alone. The world is full. The spaces are occupied. The in-between is alive. You are never alone, because the hidden folk are there, always, everywhere, forever. In the spaces you do not look, in the moments you do not notice, in the silence you do not hear, they are there, and they are with you, always. Sleep now. Let this truth comfort you. Let this knowledge hold you. Let this understanding surround you. Sleep. You are safe. You are held. You are home. You are never alone. The hidden folk are with you, always, forever, until the end, and beyond. Sleep now, deep, peaceful, safe. Let the stones sing. Let the wind whisper. Let the darkness hold. Sleep. You are safe. You are home. You are asleep. And in your sleep you rest. In the knowledge, in the memory, in the respect, you rest. And the world rests with you. The stones, the moss, the wind. The spaces, the in-between, the forgotten, the hidden folk, they rest with you. And in this rest there is peace, not the peace of endings, but the peace of continuance, not the peace of conclusions, but the peace of journeys, not the peace of answers, but the peace of questions. There is peace, and you are part of it. Sleep now. Let the peace fill you. Let the rest restore you. Let the sleep renew you. Sleep. Deep, peaceful, safe. The night is long, the darkness is gentle, the silence is deep. You sleep, and in your sleep you are held by the world, by the stones, by the wind, by the spaces, by the hidden folk. You are held, and you are safe, always, forever, until the end, and beyond. Sleep now. Let them hold you. Let them keep you. Let them watch over you. Sleep. You are safe. You are home. You are asleep. And that is enough. That is everything. That is all. Sleep now. Deep. Peaceful. Safe. Let the stones sing you deeper. Let the wind carry you further. Let the darkness hold you closer. Sleep. You're safe. You're held. You're home. You're never alone. The hidden folk are with you. Always. Sleep now. Sleep. But before sleep takes you completely, there is more to remember. More roads. More stones. More quiet moments in the land of the hidden folk. Let these memories wash over you. Let them carry you deeper into rest. You remember the second week in Iceland. The weather had changed. The white sky gave way to grey. Not storm clouds, just grey. A soft, even grey that made everything feel muted. You drove east. The road followed the coast. On your left, the ocean rolled in slow, heavy waves. On your right, mountains rose steep and sudden. The towns here were smaller. Just a few houses clustered together. A church. A harbour. Nothing more. You stopped in one such town. You parked near the water. You walked along the dock. The boats were old, wooden, painted in fading colours. They rocked gently in the water. An old man sat on a crate. He was mending a net. His hands moved with practised ease. You approached. "Excuse me," you said. He looked up. His face was deeply lined. His eyes were pale blue. "Yes," he said. "I'm looking for information," you said. "About the hidden folk." He smiled. It was a sad smile. "Everyone is looking," he said. "Have you seen them?" you asked. He set down his net. He looked out at the water. "My wife saw them," he said. "Once." "When she was a girl." "What did she see?" "She was walking home. It was late. The sun was setting. She passed a boulder, a big one, beside the road." He paused. He picked up his net again, but he did not work on it. "She heard singing," he said. "Coming from the boulder, beautiful singing like nothing she had ever heard." "What did she do?" "She stopped. She listened. She looked at the boulder. And?" "The boulder opened. Just a crack. Light spilled out. Golden light. And she saw them. Inside. Dancing. Singing. Celebrating something." He looked at you. "She watched for a moment," he said. "Then the boulder closed. The light went out. The singing stopped." "Did she ever see them again?" He shook his head. "No," he said. "But she never forgot. She told me that story 1,000 times. Every time her eyes would light up. Like she was there again, watching them." "Where is she now?" you asked. "She died," he said, 10 years ago. "I am sorry," you said. He nodded. "The boulder is still there," he said, "if you want to see it." "Where?" He pointed down the road. 5 kilometres, he said. "East. You cannot miss it." You thanked him. You walked back to your car. You drove east. 5 kilometres down the road you saw it. The boulder was massive, twice the height of your car. It sat right beside the road, dark grey, covered in pale green lichen. You pulled over. You got out. The wind was strong. It pushed against you. It carried the smell of salt and seaweed. You walked up to the boulder. You placed your hand on it. It was cold, rough, just a rock. You closed your eyes. You listened. The wind, the waves, the distant cry of a bird. Nothing else. No singing. No light. No magic. You opened your eyes. You looked at the boulder. "I believe her," you whispered. The boulder did not respond, but you felt something. A warmth. A sense of acknowledgement. Or maybe you imagined it. You walked back to your car. You drove on. That night you stayed in a farmhouse. It was a bed and breakfast, the only one in the area. The owner was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and calloused hands. "You're staying just one night?" she asked. "Yes," you said. "That is too bad," she said. "There is much to see here." She showed you to your room. It was small but comfortable. The window looked out onto a field. In the distance you could see mountains. "Dinner is at 7, she said. "I hope you like lamb." You did. At 7, you went downstairs. The dining room was cosy. A fire burned in the hearth. The table was set for 2. The woman brought out food, lamb stew, fresh bread, butter. You ate together. "You're here for the hidden folk?" she asked. "How did you know?" She smiled. "Everyone who comes here alone," she said, "is here for them." "Do you believe in them?" She thought about it. "I don't know if I believe," she said, "but I respect them. I leave offerings. I do not disturb their stones." "Why?" Because my grandmother did. And her grandmother. It is tradition. It is respect. She took a sip of water. When I was young, she said, we had a new barn built. The builders wanted to move a large stone. It was in the way. What happened? My grandmother refused. She said it was a home. The builders laughed, but she would not let them move it. So they worked around it. They did. The barn is a strange shape because of it, but it stands. 30 years later, no problems. You finished your stew. Do you think the barn would have fallen if they moved the stone? You asked. She shrugged. Who knows, she said, but why take the chance? After dinner you helped her clean up. Then you went to your room, you lay in bed. You listened to the house settle, the fire crackle, the wind outside. You thought about respect, about tradition, about belief. You thought about the old man and his wife, about the boulder that opened, about the golden light. You thought about the farmhouse owner, about the stone they would not move, about the barn that still stood. You thought about belief, and you realized something. Belief was not about proof. It was not about evidence. It was not about seeing. Belief was about respect. About honoring. About leaving space. You closed your eyes. You slept. In the morning you woke early. The sun was rising. The light was soft and golden. You dressed. You went downstairs. The farmhouse owner was already awake. She was making coffee. Good morning, she said. Good morning, you said. She poured you a cup. There is something I want to show you, she said, if you have time. I have time, you said. She led you outside. You walked across the field. The grass was wet with dew. Your boots left dark prints. At the edge of the field stood a cluster of stones. They were arranged in a rough circle. Inside the circle the grass was different. Greener, thicker. This is their place, she said. My grandmother told me, and her grandmother told her. Do you ever see them? No, she said, but I feel them. Especially at dusk. You stepped closer to the circle. May I go inside? You asked. If you are respectful, she said. You stepped over the stones. You entered the circle. Immediately you felt it. A change in the air, a warmth, a presence, not threatening, not welcoming. Just there. You stood still. You closed your eyes. You listened. The wind moved through the grass. Birds sang in the distance. The earth hummed beneath your feet, and underneath it all you felt it. That vibration, that hum, that sense of something ancient and patient and aware. You opened your eyes. Thank you, you whispered. You stepped out of the circle. The farmhouse owner was watching. She nodded. You felt it, she said. Yes, you said. She smiled. Good, she said. Now you understand. You walked back to the farmhouse together. You had breakfast. You packed your things. Before you left, you thanked her. Come back, she said, when you need to remember. You drove on. The days continued to blur together. You stopped in more towns. You talked to more people. You heard more stories. A teacher told you about a student who claimed to see them every day. Small figures in the schoolyard, playing among the rocks. A shopkeeper told you about his grandfather, who refused to sell a piece of land because it belonged to them. A nurse told you about a patient who, in her final days, spoke of visitors, small people, kind people, who sat with her when she was alone. You collected these stories. You wrote them in your notebook. You carried them with you. And slowly you began to understand. The hidden folk were not a single thing. They were not a species. They were not a tribe. They were a belief, a tradition, a way of seeing the world. They were the acknowledgement that humans are not alone, that the earth is not empty, that there are things beyond understanding. They were respect, honour, humility, and that was enough. You drove into the interior. The landscape here was different, more desolate, more alien. The roads were rough, gravel and dirt. Your car bounced and rattled. On either side the land stretched flat and barren. Volcanic rock, black sand, no vegetation. You drove for hours. You saw no one, no houses, no cars, no life, just the road, just the land, just the sky. You stopped to stretch your legs. The silence was overwhelming. You walked away from the car. You climbed a small rise. You looked around. In every direction, nothing, just emptiness. But it was not empty. You could feel it. The land was alive, not with plants or animals, but with something else, a presence, an awareness, an age. You sat down on a rock, you closed your eyes, you breathed, and you felt it. That connection, that understanding. You were a visitor here, a guest. This land did not belong to you. It never would. It belonged to itself, to the earth, to the hidden folk. You opened your eyes, you stood up, you walked back to your car, you drove on. That night you camped. There were no towns, no guest houses, just the road and the land. You pulled off onto a flat area, you set up your tent, you made a small fire, you sat by the fire, you ate bread and cheese, you drank water. The sky darkened. Stars appeared, more stars than you had ever seen. The Milky Way stretched across the sky like a river of light. You lay on your back, you stared up. You thought about scale, about time, about insignificance. You were so small, so brief, so meaningless, and yet you were here, you were alive, you were aware, and that was a miracle. You closed your eyes, you listened. The fire crackled, the wind whispered, the earth breathed, and in that moment you felt it. You were not separate, you were not alone, you were part of it, part of the earth, part of the sky, part of the hidden folk. You were connected, you slept beside the fire, your sleeping bag was warm. The ground was hard, but you did not mind. You dreamed of stars, of light, of infinite space. In your dream you floated. You drifted through the cosmos, you saw planets and galaxies and nebulae, and everywhere you looked, you saw them, the hidden folk, not in the rocks, not in the hills, but in the spaces between stars, in the darkness between galaxies, in the void between worlds. They were everywhere. They were everything. They were the fabric of existence itself. You woke. The fire had died. The sky was beginning to lighten. Dawn was coming. You lay in your sleeping bag. You watched the sky change, from black to blue to pink to gold. You watched the stars fade. You watched the sun rise, and you felt at peace. You packed up your camp. You got back in your car. You drove on. You drove for days. You followed roads that seemed to lead nowhere. You passed through valleys and over mountains. You crossed rivers and skirted lakes. You stopped when you felt like stopping. You moved when you felt like moving. You had no plan, no destination, no schedule. You were simply there, present, aware. One afternoon you came to a hot spring. It was not a tourist spot. No signs, no facilities, just a pool of steaming water in the middle of a lava field. You parked. You got out. The air was cold. The steam rose in thick clouds. You looked around. No one was there. You undressed. You stepped into the water. It was perfect. Hot but not scalding. Deep but not dangerous. You sank down. You let the water cover you up to your neck. You closed your eyes. The heat seeped into your muscles. Your tension melted away. Your mind quieted. You floated. And in that floating you felt it again. That presence. That connection. That sense of being held. You were not alone. You were never alone. The hidden folk were there. In the water. In the steam. In the heat. They were there. You stayed in the hot spring for an hour, maybe more. Time felt meaningless. When you finally got out, your skin was pink and your body was loose. You dressed slowly. You sat on a rock. You let the cold air cool you down. You looked out at the lava field, at the moss, at the stones, and you smiled. Because you understood. This was it. This was the secret. This was the truth. The hidden folk were not separate. They were not other. They were not foreign. They were part of everything, part of the earth, part of you. You were them. They were you. You were all connected, all part of the same whole, all expressions of the same mystery. You got back in your car, you drove on. But you were different now. Lighter, freer, more at peace. You drove west. Back toward civilization. Back toward towns and people and roads that made sense. But you were not the same person who had arrived in Iceland. You had changed. Subtly, quietly, but fundamentally. You saw differently now. You felt differently. You understood differently. You stopped in a small town, you went to a cafe, you ordered coffee and cake. The cafe was warm, cozy, full of locals. You sat by the window, you watched people walk by, you sipped your coffee. An elderly woman sat down at your table. "May I join you?" she asked. "Of course," you said. She was tiny, wrinkled. Her eyes sparkled with intelligence. "You have been travelling," she said. "Yes," you said. Looking for them? You nodded. She smiled. Did you find them? You thought about it. I think so, you said. Or they found me. I'm not sure. She laughed. It was a bright, clear laugh. That is the only way, she said. You do not find the hidden folk. They allow you to sense them, if they choose. Why would they choose, you asked. Because you were open, she said. Because you were respectful. Because you were ready. She took a sip of her tea. Most people come looking with expectations, she said. They want to see little people. They want magic shows. They want proof. And they do not find it. No, she said. Because that is not what the hidden folk are. What are they? She looked at you. Her eyes were serious now. They are a reminder, she said. A reminder that we do not own the earth, that we share it, that we must be humble. She finished her tea. She stood up. You understand now, she said. Carry it with you. She walked away. You sat in the cafe for a long time. You thought about her words, about reminders, about humility. You thought about everything you had seen and felt and experienced, and you realized she was right. You understood. You finished your coffee. You left the cafe. You walked through the town. The sun was setting. The light was golden and soft. You walked to the harbour. You stood at the edge. You looked out at the water. The ocean was calm. The boats rocked gently. Seabirds called. You took a deep breath. You let it out slowly. And you said goodbye, not to Iceland, not to the hidden folk, but to the person you had been when you arrived. That person was gone, changed, transformed. You were someone new now, someone who understood, someone who saw. You walked back to your car. You drove to Reykjavik. You spent your last night in the city. You walked through the streets. You visited shops. You ate at restaurants. But your mind was elsewhere, in the lava fields, beside the hot springs, among the stones. Your mind was with the hidden folk. That night you sat in your hotel room. You looked out at the city lights. Tomorrow you would fly home. Tomorrow you would return to your regular life. But you knew you would never be the same. You had been changed, marked, touched by something beyond yourself, and you were grateful. You went to bed early. You lay in the dark. You closed your eyes, and for the last time in Iceland you felt them, the hidden folk, not as presences, not as beings, but as a feeling, a warmth, a sense of being seen and accepted. They were there, and they were saying goodbye. Or maybe not goodbye, maybe just until next time. You smiled, you slept. In the morning you packed your bags. You checked out of the hotel. You drove to the airport. You returned the rental car. You checked in for your flight. You went through security. You sat at the gate. You waited. And as you waited, you thought about what came next. You would go home. You would return to work. You would resume your life. But you would be different. You would see differently. You would live differently. You would look for the spaces, the in-between, the forgotten. You would protect them, honour them, respect them. You would carry the hidden folk with you, always. Your flight boarded. You found your seat. You buckled in. The plane took off. You watched Iceland disappear below you. The black sand, the green moss, the volcanic landscape. You watched until it was gone, until there was only ocean. And then you closed your eyes. You thought about the stones, the cairns, the roads that curved. You thought about the people you had met, the stories you had heard, the moments you had experienced. You thought about the old man and his wife, the farmhouse owner and her circle of stones, the elderly woman in the cafe. You thought about respect, about humility, about connection, and you carried it all with you. Into the sky, across the ocean, back home, you carried it with you, and you would never let it go. The plane landed, you collected your bags, you went through customs, you took a taxi home. Your apartment was the same. Nothing had changed, but everything had changed. You unpacked slowly, you put away your clothes, you looked at your souvenirs, a few stones, some photographs, your notebook full of stories, simple things, but precious. You placed them on your shelf, you looked at them, and you promised yourself you would not forget, you would not lose this, you would not let the everyday drown out the mystery, you would remember, you would protect the spaces, you would honour the in-between, you would value the forgotten, you would carry the hidden folk with you, always. That night you went to bed early, you were tired, the travel, the time change, the weight of everything, You lay down, you closed your eyes, and immediately you were back in Iceland, back in the lava fields, back among the stones. You were dreaming. But it felt real. You walked through the moss. Your feet left no prints. Your breath made no fog. You were a ghost, a visitor, a memory. You walked to a boulder, a familiar boulder, the one from your second day. The one the road curved around, you placed your hand on it. It was warm. The boulder opened. This time you were not surprised. You stepped inside. The room was the same, small, cosy. A fire in the hearth, a chair beside it. But this time someone was sitting in the chair. The figure from before, small, dressed in old-fashioned clothing, face hidden in shadow. "Welcome back," it said. You sat down in the other chair. "I left," you said. "I know," it said. "But I'm here now." "You were always here," it said. "Part of you never left." You looked at the fire. The flames danced. They cast shadows on the walls. "What happens now?" you asked. "You live," it said. "You remember. You honour." "That is all?" "That is everything." You sat in silence. The fire crackled. The room was warm. "Will I come back?" you asked. "To Iceland?" "Maybe," it said. "Maybe not. It does not matter. Iceland is not a place. It is a state of mind. It is a way of seeing." "I understand," you said. "Do you?" You thought about it. "I think so," you said. The figure nodded. "Good enough," it said. The fire began to dim. The room began to fade. "Is this goodbye?" you asked. "We do not say goodbye," it said. "We are always with you, in the spaces, in the silence, in the moments between." "I will remember," you said. "We know," it said. The room faded completely. The fire went out. The darkness surrounded you. You woke. Your bedroom was dark. Your sheets were warm. You lay still. You thought about the dream, about the figure, about the words. We were always with you. You smiled. You closed your eyes. You slept. And from that night on, you carried them with you, the hidden folk. Not as a belief, not as a story, but as a truth that lived in your bones, in your breath, in your awareness. You saw the spaces now, everywhere, in your city, in your neighbourhood, in your life, the corner lot that was never developed, the tree that stood alone in the parking lot, the crack in the sidewalk where weeds grew. You saw them, you honoured them, you protected them, you told others, quietly, gently. You shared the stories, you explained the respect. Some listened, some did not. But that was okay, because you knew, you understood, you remembered, and that was enough. Years passed, you continued to walk, to look, to listen. You found more spaces, more forgotten places, more in between. You found a community of others who understood, who saw what you saw, who felt what you felt. Together you protected the spaces, you honoured the forgotten, you valued the in-between, and slowly the world changed. Not dramatically, not obviously, but it changed. People became more careful, more respectful, more aware. They left spaces, they honoured the old, they protected the wild, and in those spaces the hidden folk thrived. Or maybe they did not. Maybe it was all in your head. Maybe it was just stories. Maybe it was just imagination. But it did not matter, because the result was the same. The earth was honoured, the spaces were protected, the forgotten was valued, and that was enough. That was everything. Now, you lie in your bed. Years have passed since Iceland, decades maybe. You're older now, your body is slower, your hair is grey, but your mind is sharp. Your memory is clear. Your understanding is deep. You close your eyes. You think of Iceland, the black sand, the green moss, the endless sky. You think of the stones, the cairns, the roads that curved. You think of the hidden folk, and you smile. Because you know, you have always known. They are there, they are here, they are everywhere, in the spaces, in the silence, in the moments between. They are there, watching, waiting, present, not to be found, but to be remembered. And you remember, always, forever, until the end and beyond. You drift now, your breathing slows, your body relaxes, your mind quiets, you drift into sleep, deep, peaceful, safe. And in your sleep you dream. You dream of Iceland, of lava fields, of stones. You dream of the hidden folk, of their homes, of their halls. You dream of connection, of respect, of honor. And in your dreams they are there, not visible, not tangible, but present. They are there, and they sing to you. A lullaby, ancient, timeless, beautiful. They sing of the earth, of time, of mystery. They sing of respect, of honor, of memory. They sing of you, of your journey, of your understanding. They sing, and you listen, and you sleep, deep, peaceful, safe, held by the hidden folk, held by the earth, held by the mystery. You sleep, and in your sleep you are home. Not in your apartment, not in your city, not in your country, but home in the deepest sense. Home in the earth, home in the mystery, home in the connection. You are home, and you are at peace. Sleep now. Let the hidden folk hold you. Let their song carry you. Let their presence comfort you. Sleep. You're safe. You're held. You are home. Sleep. The night is long, the darkness is gentle, the silence is deep. You sleep. And the hidden folk watch over you, not to protect, not to guide, but simply to be present, to be aware, to be connected. They watch, and you sleep. Deep, peaceful, safe. The world turns, the stars shine, the earth breathes, and you are part of it all. Part of the mystery, part of the magic, part of the hidden folk. You are part of it, and in being part of it you are complete. You are whole, you are home. Sleep now, let the completeness fill you. Let the wholeness hold you. Let the home surround you. Sleep, you are safe, you are held, you are at peace. Sleep, deep, peaceful, safe. The hidden folk sing, the earth breathes, the stars shine, you sleep, and in your sleep you remember. You remember Iceland, the stones, the moss. You remember the people, the stories, the moments. You remember the lessons, the understanding, the truth. You remember, and in remembering you honour them. The hidden folk, the earth, the mystery. You honour them, and they honour you. By being present, by being aware, by being connected, they honour you, and you are grateful. Sleep now. Let the gratitude fill you. Let the honour hold you. Let the connection surround you. Sleep. You are safe. You are held. You are home. You are honoured. You are loved. Sleep. Deep. Peaceful. Safe. The hidden folk are with you, always, forever, until the end and beyond. Sleep now. Let them carry you deeper. Let them hold you closer. Let them sing you softer. Sleep. You're safe. You're home. You're at peace. Sleep. Sleep. And as you sleep, the world continues. The earth turns, the seasons change, the years pass, but the hidden folk remain. In the stones, in the hills, in the spaces between, they remain, constant, patient, eternal, and they remember you. Just as you remember them, they remember your respect, your honour, your understanding. They remember your walks, your searching, your listening. They remember you, and in remembering they hold you. Across time, across space, across the veil between waking and sleeping, they hold you. And you are safe. Sleep now. Let them hold you through the night. Let them carry you through your dreams. Let them bring you safely to morning. Sleep. You are safe. You are held. You are home. Sleep. Deep. Peaceful. Safe. The hidden folk watch over you. The earth holds you. The mystery surrounds you. You are safe. You are loved. You are home. Sleep now. But there is more to tell, more to remember, more moments that shaped your understanding. Let these memories wash over you now. Let them deepen your rest. Let them carry you further into peace. You remember the small moments, the ones that seemed insignificant at the time. The morning you found a perfect stone on your doorstep, round, smooth, warm to the touch. You kept it. You placed it on your windowsill. It sits there still. The afternoon you saw a child talking to a tree. You stopped. You listened. The child was telling the tree about her day. Her voice was soft, gentle, full of trust. You did not interrupt. You walked on, but you smiled. The evening you sat in the park, the sun was setting, the light was golden, and for just a moment you saw them. Small figures, moving among the trees. There and gone, like shadows, like dreams. You did not chase them. You did not call out, you simply watched. And when they vanished, you felt grateful. These moments, these small, quiet moments, they added up. They built a life, a way of being, a way of seeing. You remember the seasons changing. Winter came, the city turned white, the cold settled in. You walked through the snow, you left footprints, you watched them fill. You found a park bench, you brushed off the snow, you sat. Around you, the world was quiet. The snow muffled everything. The city seemed to hold its breath. You closed your eyes, you listened, and in the silence you heard it, that hum, that vibration, that presence. The hidden folk were there, even in winter, even in the cold, even in the city. They were there. You opened your eyes. You looked at the snow-covered trees, the white ground, the grey sky, and you saw beauty, not despite the cold, but because of it. The world was resting, sleeping, gathering strength for spring, and the hidden folk were resting too, in their stones, in their hills, in their spaces. They were resting, and you could rest too. You stood, you walked home, your boots crunched in the snow. That night, you made tea, you sat by the window, you watched the snow fall, and you felt at peace. Spring came slowly, the snow melted, the ground thawed, the trees budded. You walked every day, you watched the changes, you noticed the small things, the first crocus, the first bird song, the first warm breeze. Each one was a miracle, each one was a gift. You found new spaces, places you had never noticed before. A drainage ditch that ran through the park, overgrown with weeds, home to frogs and insects and hidden life. An abandoned lot on the edge of town, full of rubble and wildflowers, untouched by development. A strip of woods between two neighbourhoods, narrow, wild, forgotten by everyone except the deer and the foxes and you. You visited these places, you sat in them, you listened, and you felt them. The hidden folk, present, aware, grateful. They were grateful for your attention, your respect, your protection, and you were grateful too, for the reminder, for the connection, for the peace. Summer came hot and bright, the days stretched long, the sun beat down, the city baked. But you found relief in the spaces. The drainage ditch was cool, shaded by trees, the water trickled, the frogs sang. The abandoned lot was a meadow now. Waist-high grass, butterflies and bees, a riot of colour and sound. The strip of woods was a cathedral, dark, cool, quiet, a place apart from the world. You visited these places often. You brought others sometimes, friends who were curious, children who were open, elders who remembered. You showed them the spaces, you shared the stories, you explained the respect. Some understood immediately, some took time, some never quite got it. But that was okay. You planted seeds, you trusted them to grow. Autumn came with cool winds and falling leaves. The world turned gold and red and brown. The light slanted low. The air smelled of smoke and decay and change. You walked through piles of leaves, you kicked them, you listened to them rustle. You found a cemetery, old, forgotten. The stones were weathered, moss-covered, leaning. You walked among them. You read the names, the dates, the inscriptions. These people were gone, long gone, but they were not forgotten. Not by you, not by the earth, not by the hidden folk. You felt them there, in the cemetery, among the stones, in the shadows, the hidden folk and the dead. Not the same, but connected. Both part of the in-between, both part of the forgotten. You sat on a bench. You closed your eyes. You thought about mortality, about legacy, about memory. What would you leave behind? What would people remember? Not your possessions, not your achievements, not your name, but your actions, your kindness, your respect, the spaces you protected, the stories you shared, the seeds you planted. That was your legacy. That was what would remain. And it was enough. Winter came again, and again, and again. The years turned, the seasons cycled, life continued. You grew older, your body slowed, your hair greyed, your face lined, but your understanding deepened, your awareness sharpened, your connection strengthened. You became known in your community, not famous, not important, but known. The person who cared about the spaces, The person who told the stories, the person who remembered. Children sought you out. They asked questions. They shared their own experiences. I saw something in the woods. Do you think it was them? My grandmother says we should not cut down that tree. Do you know why? I feel something when I sit by the creek. What is it? You listened, you answered, you guided. You did not claim to know everything. You did not pretend to have all the answers, but you shared what you knew, what you had learned, what you had experienced. And the children listened. They took your words, they carried them forward, and you knew. Your legacy was secure. The hidden folk would not be forgotten. One winter, you got sick. Not seriously, not dangerously, but enough to keep you inside, enough to slow you down. You stayed in bed. You drank tea. You looked out the window. From your bed, you could see the park, the trees, the snow. You watched people walk by, bundled against the cold, hurrying to somewhere. And you watched the park itself, the way the light moved through the branches, the way the snow drifted, the way the shadows lengthened. And you saw them, the hidden folk, not clearly, not obviously, but there, moving among the trees, sitting on the branches, dancing in the snow. They were playing, celebrating, enjoying the winter. You smiled, even sick, even stuck inside. You could still see them, still feel them, still know them. They were there. They had always been there. They would always be there, and that was a comfort. You recovered, you got better, you went back outside. But something had changed. You were more fragile now, more aware of your mortality. You did not have forever. None of us do. Your time was limited. But instead of fear, you felt urgency. Gentle urgency, not panic, but purpose. You had work to do, stories to tell, seeds to plant. You wrote more, you talked more, you shared more, you organized gatherings, small ones, in the park, in the woods, in the forgotten spaces. You led walks, you told stories, you taught respect. And people came, more and more, young and old, curious and committed. Together you created a movement. Not loud, not political, but real. A movement of noticing, of caring, of protecting. A movement of honouring the spaces, the in-between, the forgotten. A movement of remembering the hidden folk. And it grew, slowly, quietly, but it grew. One spring you returned to Iceland. You were much older now. Your joints ached. Your energy was limited. But you wanted to go back. You needed to go back. To remember, to honour, to say thank you. You flew across the ocean. You landed in Reykjavik. You rented a car. And you drove north. The landscape was the same. Black sand, green moss, endless sky. The stones were the same. The cairns. The roads that curved. Nothing had changed. Everything had changed. You stopped at the same places, the same pull-offs, the same streams. You got out, you walked, you touched the stones. They were warm, welcoming, familiar. You closed your eyes, you listened, and you heard them, the hidden folk, singing, humming, welcoming you home. You were home, not in the place you lived, but home in the deepest sense, home in the understanding, home in the connection, home in the mystery. You were home. You visited the guest house, the yellow one on the hill. The red-haired owner was gone, replaced by someone new. But the garden was the same, and in the centre there was a cairn. You stared at it. It looked the same, exactly the same, as if 30 years had not passed. Impossible. But there it was. You checked in. You went to your room. That night, you sat by the window. You looked out at the cairn, at the stones, at the land, and you cried, not from sadness, not from pain, but from gratitude. Gratitude for the journey, for the lessons, for the gift. Gratitude for Iceland, for the stones, for the hidden folk. Gratitude for a life well lived, a life of respect, a life of connection. You cried, and when you finished, you felt clean, light, free. You went to bed. You slept deeply, and you dreamed. In the dream you walked through the lava fields. The moss was bright green. The sky was white. You walked to the boulder, the one that had opened so many times before. You placed your hand on it. It opened. You stepped inside. The room was full full of figures, small, dressed in old-fashioned clothing, faces visible now, kind, wise, ancient. They stood in a circle, and in the centre of the circle an empty chair. For you. You stepped forward, you sat down, they looked at you, all of them, together. "Welcome home," they said. You did not speak. You did not need to. They understood. They had always understood. "You have done well," they said. "You have honoured us. You have remembered us. You have taught others to remember." One of them stepped forward, older than the others, face lined with time. "We have a gift for you," it said. It held out its hand. In the palm was a stone, small, smooth, glowing with soft light. "This is for you," it said. "Take it, keep it, and when your time comes, return it to the earth." You took the stone. It was warm, it pulsed with life. "Thank you," you whispered. The figure nodded. "No," it said. "Thank you." The room began to fade. The figures began to disappear. "Wait," you said. "Will I see you again?" They smiled, all of them, together. "You see us always," they said, "in every stone, in every space, in every moment of respect. We are always with you." The room faded completely. The darkness surrounded you. You woke. Your hand was closed, tight, around something. You opened it. In your palm was a stone, small, smooth, glowing faintly in the dark. You stared at it. Impossible. But there it was. You held it to your chest. You smiled. You slept. In the morning you checked out. You drove back to Reykjavik. You flew home. The stone came with you. You kept it close. Always. You showed it to no one. It was yours, your gift, your proof. Not that you needed proof. You knew. You had always known. But it was nice to have. A reminder. A connection. A piece of home. The years continued to pass. You grew older still. Your body weakened. Your steps slowed. But your spirit remained strong. Your understanding remained deep. Your connection remained unbroken. You continued your work, your walks, your teachings. But you knew. Your time was coming. The end was approaching, and you were not afraid. You had lived well. You had learned. You had taught. You had honoured. You had protected the spaces. You had remembered the hidden folk. You had planted seeds that would outlive you. You were ready. One autumn day you went for a walk. The air was cool. The leaves were falling. The light was golden. You walked to your favourite space, the strip of woods between the neighbourhoods. You walked slowly. Your cane tapped against the ground. Your breath came heavy. You found a fallen log. You sat down. You closed your eyes. You listened. The wind in the trees, the rustle of leaves, the distant sound of traffic, and underneath it all that hum, that vibration. That presence, the hidden folk. They were there. They had always been there. You opened your eyes. You reached into your pocket. You pulled out the stone, the one from your dream, the one that glowed. You looked at it. "It is time," you whispered. You stood, with effort, with pain. But you stood. You walked to a special spot, a place where 3 trees grew together, their roots intertwined, their branches touching. You knelt. You dug a small hole, just big enough for the stone. You placed it inside. You covered it with earth, with leaves, with moss. You placed your hand on the ground. "Thank you," you said, "for everything, for the journey, for the lessons, for the gift. I return this to you now, with gratitude, with love, with respect." The ground was warm beneath your hand. It pulsed, once, twice, 3 times, and then it was still. You stood. You walked home. That night you went to bed early. You were tired, so tired, but peaceful. You lay down. You closed your eyes, and you felt them, the hidden folk, all around you, in the room, in the walls, in the air. They were there. "Thank you," they whispered. "Thank you for remembering. Thank you for honouring. Thank you for teaching. We will carry you now into the in-between, into the spaces, into the mystery. You are one of us now. You always have been." You smiled. You let go, and you drifted, not into death, not into nothing, but into everything, into the earth, into the stones, into the spaces, into the hidden folk, You drifted, and you were home. But your story does not end there. Your body was found the next morning, peaceful, smiling, gone. Your friends mourned, your students grieved, your community felt the loss. But they also felt something else: gratitude, pride, understanding. You had lived well, you had taught them well, you had left a legacy. They continued your work, they protected the spaces, they honoured the in-between, they remembered the hidden folk, and they taught their children. Who taught their children? Who taught theirs? Your legacy spread, quietly, gently, but widely. And the world changed, slowly, gradually, but truly. People began to notice, to care, to protect. Not everyone, not everywhere, but enough. Enough to make a difference, enough to honour the earth, enough to remember the hidden folk. And in the spaces, in the in-between, in the forgotten, you were there, not as a ghost, not as a spirit, but as a presence, a memory, a connection. You were there, and you always would be, because you had become what you had honoured. You had become part of the hidden folk, part of the mystery, part of the magic, part of the earth. You were there, in every stone, in every space, in every moment of respect. You were there, watching, waiting, present, not to be found, but to be remembered. And you were remembered by your friends, by your students, by your community, by the children who walked through the woods, by the elders who sat in the parks, by the seekers who travelled to Iceland. You were remembered, and in being remembered you lived on, not as a person, but as an idea, a truth, a way of being. You lived on, in the spaces, in the in-between, in the forgotten. You lived on, and you always would, forever, until the end of time and beyond. Now you lie in your bed, not the you who walked in Iceland, not the you who taught the children, not the you who returned the stone, but the you who listens to this story, the you who drifts towards sleep, the you who dreams. You lie in your bed, and you think about the hidden folk, about respect, about honour, about memory, about the spaces, the in-between, the forgotten. You think, and in thinking, you understand. You understand that the hidden folk are not just in Iceland, not just in stories, not just in the past. They are here, they are now, they are always, in the spaces you do not look, in the moments you do not notice, in the silence you do not hear. They are here, and they are waiting, waiting for you to notice, waiting for you to respect, waiting for you to remember. They are waiting, and you can choose. You can choose to see them, to honour them, to protect them. You can choose to notice the spaces, to value the in-between, to remember the forgotten. You can choose, and in choosing you can change. Not dramatically, not suddenly, but truly. You can change the way you see, the way you live, the way you are. You can change, and in changing, you can change the world. One space at a time, one moment at a time, one choice at a time. You can change the world by honouring the hidden folk, by protecting the spaces, by remembering the mystery. You can change the world, and you can start now. Tonight, in your sleep, in your dreams, you can start by listening, by noticing, by caring, by letting the hidden folk into your awareness, into your heart, into your life. You can start, and they will help you. They will guide you. They will teach you. They will hold you, not by speaking, not by showing, but by being present, by being patient, by being there. They will help you, and you will change, slowly, gently, but completely. You will become someone who sees, someone who notices, someone who cares. You will become someone who honours the hidden folk, and in honouring them, you will honour yourself. You will honour the earth. You will honour the mystery. You will become whole. Now sleep. Let this story carry you. Let the hidden folk hold you. Let the mystery surround you. Sleep. You are safe. You are held. You are home. Sleep. Deep. Peaceful. Safe. The hidden folk are with you. In your room. In your dreams. In your heart. They are with you. Always. Forever. Until the end and beyond. Sleep now. Let them sing to you. Let them carry you. Let them hold you. Sleep. You are safe. You are home. You are one with the hidden folk, one with the stones, one with the earth, one with the mystery. You are one, and you are whole. Sleep now. Deep, peaceful, safe. The night is long. The darkness is gentle. The silence is deep. Sleep, and dream of Iceland. Dream of black sand. Dream of green moss. Dream of endless sky. Dream of stones. Dream of cairns. Dream of roads that curve. Dream of the hidden folk. Dream of their homes. Dream of their halls. Dream of their songs. Dream. And in dreaming, remember. Remember the respect. Remember the honour. Remember the mystery. Remember. And in remembering, carry it forward. Into tomorrow. Into your life. Into the world. Carry it forward. By noticing the spaces. By protecting the forgotten. By honouring the in-between. Carry it forward. And the hidden folk will be grateful. They will remember you. They will honour you. They will hold you. Always. Forever. Until the end. And beyond. Sleep now. Let them carry you through the night. Let them hold you through your dreams. Let them bring you safely to morning. Sleep. You are safe. You are held. You are loved. You are home. Sleep. But wait. There is more. More moments. More memories. More truth. Before you drift completely, let these final stories settle into your bones. You remember another trip, years before the last one, when you were younger, stronger, more curious. You had returned to Iceland in summer, the midnight sun, the endless light. You drove to the Estfjords, remote, rugged, rarely visited. The roads were narrow, unpaved in places. Your car bounced over rocks, splashed through streams. The landscape here was different, more dramatic. Cliffs rose straight from the sea, waterfalls poured from impossible heights. You stopped in a village. Just a handful of houses, a small dock, a few fishing boats. You got out. You stretched. You walked to the water. An old woman was sitting on a bench. She was knitting. Her needles clicked in a steady rhythm. "Beautiful day," you said. She looked up. Her eyes were clouded with age, but they saw clearly. "It is," she said. You sat beside her. "I am travelling," you said, "learning about the hidden folk." She smiled. Her teeth were few. "You've come to the right place," she said. "Why is that?" "The Westfjords are old," she said. "Very old. The hidden folk here are the oldest in Iceland." She went back to her knitting. "My grandfather," she said. "He was a fisherman. One night he was out late. The fog came in. Thick. He could not see." Her needles clicked. The rhythm did not change. He heard voices, singing, calling him. He followed the sound. And he found a cove, a small one, hidden by rocks. The voices came from there. She paused. She looked at you. "He saw lights," she said. "Dozens of them, small, golden, moving along the beach." "What did he do?" "He watched. For hours. Until dawn. When the sun came up, the lights vanished. The voices stopped." "Did he ever go back?" "Many times. But he never saw them again. The cove was always empty." She finished a row. She started another. "He said they were having a celebration," she said. "A festival, something important." "Did he ever learn what?" She shook her head. "No. But he always spoke of it with wonder. He felt honoured to have witnessed it." You sat in silence. The needles clicked. "Do you believe him?" you asked. She looked at you again. "I was there," she said. "I was a girl, just 5 or 6. He took me once to the cove." "Did you see them?" "No, but I felt them. The air was different there, warmer, welcoming." She smiled. "I go there still," she said. "When I need peace. When I need to remember." "Where is it?" you asked. She pointed north. 10 kilometres. Follow the coast road. You will know it when you see it. You thanked her. You got back in your car. You drove north. The coast road was rough. It hugged the cliff edge. On your left, the ocean crashed against rocks far below. 10 kilometres passed. Then 15. You began to wonder if you had missed it. And then you saw it. A small pull-off. Easy to miss. You almost drove past. You stopped. You got out. You walked to the edge of the cliff. You looked down. Below, hidden from the road, was a cove. Small. Sheltered. A crescent of black sand between steep rocks. You found a path. Narrow. Steep. Dangerous. You climbed down. It took 20 minutes. Your hands were scraped, your legs were tired, but you made it. You stood on the black sand. You looked around. The cove was perfect, protected from the wind. The sun beat down. The air was warm. You walked along the beach. You touched the rocks. You knelt at the water's edge. The water was clear, cold. You could see straight to the bottom. You closed your eyes. You listened. The waves, the wind, the cry of birds, and underneath it all, something else. A hum, a vibration. A frequency just beyond hearing. You opened your eyes. The cove seemed to shimmer. The light was different, thicker, more golden. You felt it, the presence, stronger here than anywhere else. The hidden folk, they were here. This was their place, their celebration ground, their home. You stood. "Thank you," you said aloud, "for letting me see this, for letting me be here." The wind picked up. It swirled around you, warm, gentle, like a caress. And then it stopped. You smiled. You climbed back up the path. You drove on. That night you camped near a lake, remote. No people, no lights. You set up your tent. You made a fire. You cooked a simple meal. As the sun set, the lake turned to glass. The mountains reflected perfectly. The sky glowed pink and orange and purple. You sat by the fire. You watched the colours fade. And as darkness fell, you saw them. Lights. Small. Golden. Moving along the far shore of the lake. You stood. You stared. The lights moved slowly. Deliberately. They seemed to be dancing, or celebrating, or simply being. You watched for an hour, maybe more. The lights never came closer, never moved toward you. They stayed on the far shore, in their world, separate, and you were grateful. Grateful to witness, grateful to see, grateful to know. When the lights finally faded, you went to your tent. You lay down. You looked up at the ceiling. You felt different, changed, like you had crossed a threshold. You had seen them, the hidden folk, not clearly, not directly, but you had seen them, and you would never be the same. You slept, and you dreamed of golden lights, of dancing figures, of ancient celebrations. In the morning, you packed up, you drove back toward civilization, but you carried the memory, the vision, the gift. You carried it with you, always. You remember other encounters, small ones, fleeting ones. The time you were hiking, you rounded a bend, and there, on a rock, sat a small figure, no bigger than a child, dressed in strange clothes. You blinked. It was gone. The time you were sitting in your garden, you saw movement from the corner of your eye. You turned. Nothing. But you felt watched, observed, judged. The time you were driving at night, your headlights caught something, a face, looking out from behind a tree, white, wide-eyed, not human. You slowed down. You looked back. Nothing. These moments, these glimpses, they added up. They built a certainty, a knowing. The hidden folk were real, not in the way humans are real. But real nonetheless, real in their presence, real in their effect, real in their mystery. They were real, and you honoured them. You remember teaching. You started small, a few friends, a small group, through signs, through synchronicities, through small miracles, a stone on your doorstep, a sudden warmth in a cold place, a voice in the wind that spoke your name. Small things, but meaningful. You noticed, you appreciated, you remembered, and you continued. You remember the stories other people shared with you. A woman told you about her daughter. The girl was 4. She had an imaginary friend. "She says her friend lives in the oak tree," the woman said, "in our backyard." "What is the friend's name?" you asked. "She will not say. She says the friend does not have a name, or does not share it." "What do they do together?" "They talk. They play. My daughter says her friend tells her stories about the old times, about the earth." The woman paused. "Should I be worried?" she asked. You smiled.